Hey guys, in today's tutorial I am going to create this beautiful motion graphic effects using the Blender geometry node and create this awesome material to the sphere using the Blender hidden node. In this tutorial you will learn a very different techniques, how can you use the geometry proximity node, and you will also learn how the line start from each of the sphere to connect our empathy, and this empathy connect with our geometry proximity node to control the scale and the color of these sphere. And if you like this kind of procedural motion graphic effects, then you can visit my Patreon where you find a lot of procedural stuff. So how we can create this? Now let's jump into the tutorial. All right, we are in Blender, and here I select this cube and directly enter into the geometry node workspace. And here I hit this new button to create a new node tree and select this group input and delete this. And here I search for the cube. Again, cube. This is more flexible than in the by default 3D viewport because we can change their size and vertices in the geometry node. And here I hit this 2 to increase this cube along z-axis by 2 meters. And here I enter into the wireframe, and here I change the vertices. I select these x and y vertices and subdivide this into 8. Now we have this, and also subdivide that vertices to 10. Now we have nicely subdivided cube in our scene because I use these vertices to replace a sphere by using the instance on point. Now back to the solid view, and here I search for the instance on point node and connect it here. And here I search for the icosphere and connect with the instance of the instance on point. The size of this icosphere is very large, and here I reduce this radius very small. I think 0.03 is looking nice. Now these icospheres are low poly, and here I increase their subdivision up to 4 to make them smooth and high poly. And here the icospheres are not perfectly smooth. So for that, here I again search for the set shade smooth node to connect here, and here you can see now the structure is fully smooth. Now we have this. Now I want to use the proximity node to change the scale. So for that, these are the instances because this node give this value as these instances. So for that, here I search for the scale instance node and connect it here. And here I use this socket to control our geometry proximity. So for that, here in the 3D viewport, here I add a empathy plane axis. You can add anyone and scale it down, something like that. Control A to apply scale because this is very important because we can control the color with this geometry node attached to this geometry proximity node attached to this empathy, and move this along the y-axis, something like that. Now we have this. Select these here in the outliner, drag this empathy into the geometry node workspace and place it here. And now we do the geometry node proximity setup. So for that, here I search for the mesh line and place it here and connect this location with the start location of the mesh line and decrease this count to 1. Now we have only single point in the middle of this 3D viewport. And here I search for the node, which is the geometry proximity node, and connect this with the geometry. And I choose here the point because I want to scale these two pairs, and these two pairs are in from this cube are represent each point. And connect this distance with the scale of the scale instances. Now you can see the effect. And here I use the map range node to control or adjust our value. So for that, here I search for the map range, place it here, and here I make some changes to this map range. Here I increase the scale. You can see our spheres are small, and here we increase this, change this value, and also change this to make our sphere near our empathy some bigger. After carefully choosing the values in the map range, you can see the result which we want in our 3D viewport. And if I select this empathy and move this, you can see the geometry proximity node effect. Now we have this. Select this and back to the geometry node. Now here is the magic done, and here I want a line start from each of these sphere and end to this empathy. And how we can do this? So all of these sphere are having a single point due to this cube, and so here we do some settings to create a line which start from each of these sphere, and all of these lines end to this empathy. So for that, here I search for the node setup, which is the for each element, and place it here. And here I connect this with the geometry of the first for each element node, and connect this with the points. Now we have our structure back in our 3D viewport. And here we do this magic. And here I search for the curve line, and place it here. And now here I want this curve start from each of these spheres and end of this curve to the empathy. So for that, here we first determine the location of the sphere. So for that, in the first, for each element node, here I search for the position node and connect this with the empathy socket of this for each element, and this will give the compatible value for the start position node. And here I connect with the start position of this curve line. And now all of these curves start from these sphere, because for each element, it's considered all of these vertices as a starting point of for this curve. And for the end point, this empathy we use in our geometry proximity setup. So for that, here I choose this location value to the end of this curve line. Now here you can see nothing, because we use this output of this for each element setup to make our curves. So for that, here I search for the join geometry node and connect it here. And from the for each element, here I connect this value with the join geometry node. And here you can see the nothing, because we connect this curve line with the geometry of the for each element second node. Now we have this kind of structure, and the lines start from each of these sphere, and the end of this line is our empathy, which we select at the end of the curve line, and also start for each element the vertices of this cube in the curve line. Now we have this. Now we easily convert these curves into the some mesh-like structure. So for that, here this output will give the curve. So here I search for the curve to mesh node and place it here. And here we use this curve profile to make these curve visible. So for that, here I search for the curve circle and place it here and connect this with the curve profile. Now the size of this curve circle is very big, and here I decrease their size very small. You can see, and here I want 0.001 meter, very small lines from all of these pair and end to this empathy. Now we have this beautiful structure in our 3D viewport due to this geometry node setup. Now I want to apply the material for this structure. So for that, here I search for the set material node and connect it here. And here in the material properties, I create a new material and grab this material in the geometry node, set material node. So we material applied to our scene. And here in the material properties, we create this material, and here we change this material to see the effect. Here in the render properties, I choose the EV render engine for this animation and also enter into the rendered view. So you can see the changings which we made in the shader node editor. Now here in the shader editor, make this big, and here I duplicate this principal BSDF by pressing a Shift D, and here I search for the mix shader node because I want to mix these two principal BSDF, and here I use this vector value to control our gradient. So for that, here I search for the color ramp, place it here, and connect with this vector. And here I search for the gradient texture and connect this with the color ramp. And selecting this gradient, press Ctrl T to add the mapping and texture coordinate. This is due to the node regular add-on enabled. And here I choose this object coordinate and change this gradient texture type from linear to spherical. And here I choose our empathy. So we can, when we move the empathy to connect with our geometry proximity setup, our material is also changed with this movement. So for that purpose, we select our empathy in the texture coordinate node. Now we have this. And here I change this principal BSDF. So for that, here I search for the, again, color ramp and place it here and connect with the base color of the principal BSDF. And here I search for the node ambient occlusion and place it here and connect with the color ramp, and also select this, press Ctrl T to add the mapping and texture coordinate, and delete this image texture and connect this with the normal. And here I choose the object coordinate. So for that, now we have this kind of pattern. Now here I do some adjustment to add the color, and here I decrease the roughness, something like that. And here in first principle BSDF, we can also decrease the roughness for this structure, something like this. Now here in the color ramp, I change the color for this geometry proximity setup. So for that, here I choose this pointer and make this color something like light blue color. You cannot see this clearly because we first set this gradient texture, which is the spherical, and here I move this pointer something like here, and also move this white pointer something like here, so we can easily see the effect. Move this something like here. Now we have this, and here I change this second color. For this, here I choose this purple type color. Now this is looking nice. Carefully choose the color for this pattern. Here you can see my this color is this hex code, and my this color is this hex code. And here I move this pointer in close to the first, so we can see the ambient occlusion effect, something like here, and also move this pointer very little. Now we have this kind of beautiful effect, and our material is applied to our pattern. And here, if I select this empathy, and if I move this, you can see our color is changing the movement with the geometry proximity that we want. Now select this, and we have back this shader editor. Nice. Now enter into the layout view, and here I set the camera. For this, I adjust my scene something like that, and here I search for the camera and Control Alt 0 to capture our view, and press G to move to make this structure in the middle of the camera, something like that. And also in the camera icon, here I make some changing to this focal length, something like this is looking nice. Now our camera is set. Now it's time to add the background for this. So for that, here I search for the plane and place it here. And I want this plane exactly with the size of this structure. So press 7 for the top view, and press N to open this properties. and here I decrease this size to 1 meter to perfectly match the scale of our these instances or this cube basically. Now hit N to close this panel, and here I want to move this plane along the z-axis, something like here, so we can see the shadow of these spheres onto this plane. Now enter into the camera view, and here also enter into the rendered view. Now here you can see the shadow of these spheres on this plane. Now for the background, I change this background from the compositing. So for that, we have one frame rendered in our scene to before enter into the compositing, and here I press F12 to render just one frame and close this. And now we enter into the compositing and hit this use node button, and here I search for the alpha over node to connect it here, and connect this rendered layer with the second image, and here I decrease this pure white color to some gray type background so we can easily see our spheres. Now we have this, and here I select this hex code and copy this and enter into the layout view, and here I select this plane, and here I hit to create a new material. So for that, we exactly want to match the material for our plane and for our background. And here I select this and Control V to paste our background. We cannot see the background directly. And here in the render layer, and here I choose this always. So we have this kind of background and this kind of this plane. So we can directly catch our shadow from the sphere on this plane, because the compositing has not ability to catch the shadow from our 3D object. Now we have this kind of beautiful structure. Now I want to animate this structure. So for that, we do a very simple keyframe based animation. So for that, here in the timeline, I want to end of this timeline to 120, and I want to make this animation fully looping. So for that, here in the timeline, I always start from the 0 to make this animation fully looping, and here I select this empathy, because overall movement of these patterns and these color attached to this empathy, so we can animate this empathy. So we can animate this structure due to this empathy, which is connect with our geometry proximity node, and also this empathy connect with our shader node. So here in frame 0, I select this empathy and hit I to insert the keyframe, and we jump to the frame 20 and move this empathy along the z-axis, something like that. So we can see the scale effect on the upper side of this cube and also this side of this cube, and hit I to insert the again keyframe, and here now I hit enter into the from frame 40 and move this along y-axis, something like that. So we can see the scale effect on the upper side and on the another side, and hit I to again insert the keyframe, and now here I enter into the frame 60 and move this empathy down along the z-axis in the middle of this structure, something like that, and hit I to again insert the keyframe. Now jump into the frame 80 and now move this structure more down along the z-axis, so we can see the scale effect on the lower side, something like that, and hit I to insert the again keyframe, and now enter to the frame 100 and move this structure along y-axis, something like that here, and hit I to insert the keyframe, and now enter the 120 frame, which is the last. Now here to make this animation fully looping, I select this 0 frame keyframes and shift D to duplicate and move this frame from 0 to 120 to make this animation fully looping. Now if I run this simulation, you can see our animation is fully looping because we duplicate this frame from the 0 to 120. So in this way, we can easily create this beautiful motion graphic effect using the Blender geometry node and this color using the shader node to connect all of them with this empathy due to the geometry proximity to do this scale effect, and also change this color to select this empathy in our material. Please like our channel for more beautiful motion graphic effects. Thanks for watching.